Good morning, and welcome back to League. Today we're gonna take on Telos, one of the hardest encounters in all of RuneScape, and we're gonna try and push it to its limit. From Telos we need a tier 92 weapon that is best in stock for us for a while, until we take on Zamorak. But first, we need to get some upgrades so we can at least try and attempt to defeat him. While I was editing the last video, I made myself a Eternal Magic Shortbow, which is a tier 90 weapon that can't be augmented, but it's a pretty decent weapon to use. And then I went to Anachronia to do some activities with these weird Psychomites and got myself full arrows. Full arrows are great because they give you 15% more damage and they reduce your accuracy, but that is irrelevant in this league. But this basically just gives me 15% more accuracy for all my range rotations, and we will be using these a lot during the league. Then I went to Barrows to get myself the Darroch Medallion for Berserker's Fury, one of the best relics in the game. This gives you up to 5.5% more damage based on your missing health, so basically it's just 3 damage. And just look at this nasty triple test. Ooh, that's hot. One other thing I'm still missing is a kiln cape that I can make into my Zuck cape later on. And why I haven't done this is because there's a quest you have to do to actually get access to the kiln. And I just haven't bothered, I don't want to do quest, man. In this quest, you go and find the Elder Kiln. But really, what is the point of this? I already know where the kiln is. It's right here in in Star City. And we need to take this little guy and make him a champion of the kiln or whatever. I don't even know if we're fighting him because he's not the final boss. It would make a lot more sense if this little guy we train became Zuck or something. I guess if you're a new player, this introduces the new deals in the kiln so they don't catch you off guard. So there's some merit to this, small introductory merit, but it's quite a pointless quest. And after this we went and slapped kiln, did every combat achievement apart from the Casey ones, and then we went back to Zuck to get our cape. This is one shot fulfilled for our Telos goal. The Zuck cape in RuneScape 3 gives you a buffed ultimate ability for your style. So magic gets a buffed omnipower, melee gets a buffed overpower, and range gets a buffed deadshot, which is the worst one out of this all. And oh yeah, necromancy gets a buffed death skulls. And unfortunately for range, deadshot just isn't worth clicking, especially when I have the specialist relic. It is really niche even without the specialist, because it doesn't get buffed by death swiftness, which is the range damage boosting ultimate. So you would only click this inside of ECB and outside of Death's Witness, which is a pretty rare occurrence in RuneScape 3, but sometimes it is worth using in the regular game. But which specialist I don't think it will ever out DPS Debo, which costs about the similar adren, so we will just use the Debo instead. Don't get me wrong though, this is still a very powerful cape because of the stats it gives. It is the best in slot cape in the entire game, so we will keep using it, just that the extra effect it has is kinda useless for us. At this point, I got extremely greedy and wanted to send Telos attempts already. I didn't really have all the necessary tools for a decent Telos fight, but I wanted to give it a shot anyway. I think 500% is a decent campaign range for the leagues, and I wanted to try and see if we can get some 500% kills. P1 to P3 were pretty decent, not great, didn't really have the strats cooked yet, but P4 is where it gets wild. Debo and whatever other ability is kinda hard to face the boss with, and you don't really have stuns to actually deal with Telos' mechanics. Range kinda suffers in this way, that it doesn't have stuns if you don't have the damage to brute force mechanics out. So you have to deal with all the mechanics while not having any stuns to actually set Telos' rotation where you want it to be. At least we could deal easily with the minions with the constant chin effect with range, so that was nice, but just dealing with everything Telos has to offer was so hard. And getting so much powers as well was not ideal, especially because we don't have Disruption Shield yet, so I had a couple of deaths on those. And P5 was especially difficult because Darkbull as a skill switch, trying to use that, that was not ideal, I'm gonna have to say. And I probably shouldn't have K'd at all and just dealt with the bleed mechanic, and maybe I could have gotten some kills, but I decided to go back to the drawing board and get a couple of easy upgrades that I've been too lazy to get yet. So I had to go and do a couple quests to actually get access to Disruption Shield, which will greatly reduce damage during a boss fight. Disruption Shield can be used in place of Resonance to reduce damage from a singular hit, and in this case, dealing with so much power from Telos is so much easier with Disruption Shield than with Resonance, because when you charge a Telos fund, Telos will start a cooldown on your defensive abilities, and usually to get around this you would stun Telos, But unfortunately for us, we can't really stun Telos because we're using range and we have no good stuns. With magic or with necromancy or with melee, this would literally be a zero issue because you can stun lock Telos until your defenses are back. But for us with range, we can't do that, so we have to rely on other methods. And usually in higher enrage Telos or with better gear, you would just burst Telos down before he does a single attack, so this wouldn't be an issue. But for us, because we're kind of scuffed gear, we have to rely on other methods, and Disruption Shield will be the crutch that we will use to deal with that so much power. Another huge issue in the fight for me was dealing enough damage or surviving P5. Phase 5 Telos is a race against time. You need to kill him in a certain amount of time before he kills you. You can get all of this and get another attempt with Immortality below 1000 in rage, but this won't be a sustainable method if I want to get higher. So we need to get access to Bone Shield, a necromancy incantation that lets me use my main hand, tier 90 weapon, while doing decent damage and using my Nexus from necromancy as a shield. So I can cast my defensive abilities while wearing a damaging weapon. This way we can brute force Telos to die faster and keep our tier 90 damage while suffering in the effects of our defensive abilities, because they scale up to the tier of the defensive you're using or the shield you're using. And especially because I'm way too delayed to do quests, I won't be getting greater bone shield. I will be relying on lesser bone shield for my Telos attempt. This won't be a huge issue for us until P5, where we use Barricade to remove all the damage to do more DPS inside Green Beam, because Telos puts a virus on you that deals a ton of damage, but you can camp in the Green Beam until your Barricade runs out and you have to go to clear the virus. But in modern Telos rotations, you can get your Barricade uptime so high, up to like 17 seconds or 15 seconds with Bone Shield, that you can just kill the boss standing in the Green Beam while barricaded. And this is the common way to do this boss nowadays. But unfortunately, we don't have this luxury. There are some tools, however, to make your barricade longer, even without greater Bone Shield. Mainly Thirsting 4 perk that you can put in your armor, and the Dinosaur perks you get from Anachronia. And these both give a flat increase to your barricade timer and will be really helpful. But unfortunately, I won't be doing the Anachronia farm yet, so we will only have Thirsting 4, giving us a total of 9 seconds of barricade time. This means that we will have to be vigilant in clearing the virus and careful with our barricade timing, but it's not too bad. It is still a very doable boss fight consistently, while our barricade timer is kinda low, so this is the best method we can use for now. Another big issue in the first fight was that the lack of stuns and the lack of burst damage made P4 really difficult when it didn't need to be. So we will be grinding for Onyxes for an EOF, and I did this at Stock and Rax. And when I got all my 3 Onyxes for an EOF, I could finally go back to Telos. For this EOF, a Dark Bow is very easily obtainable, so I put my Dark Bow into this new EOF, and I put a Syrian God Bow special attack, the bow we're trying to get from here, into my Specialist EOF. So we will have a huge chunk of burst damage now with a combination of SGB and D-Bow. And this made a huge difference in Phase 4. In our Phase 4s, now we could actually use the combination of using SGB and D-Bow to face the boss immediately, so we don't have to deal with so much power until something goes wrong. And if something goes wrong, we can use this Disruption Shield to deal with it. So we're actually really safe, especially because the range Relic allows you to kill the minions, so you don't even have to deal with them. You can just stun them in the tail and just D-Bow them. You have so much adrenaline, and you get 3 D-Bows and special attacks at some point. So you just have overflowing adrenaline that allows you to kill these minions, and this makes the fight really easy if you just know how to lure some minions. And why it's important to kill these minions or to deal with them in some way is that they do a lot of damage, and on top of that, the red minion can stun you. Unless you have some ways to deal with the stuns, you have to lure them in a certain spot to keep the red minion out of the way so you don't get stunned while you're doing your burst damage or stunning Telos. So it's a really important part of this fight. And farming the boss with these upgrades was honestly not too bad. And I was using some secret tank tech in here as well, because you have 100% accuracy with all your styles, and if you don't have good gear for your style already, you can use magic tank armor and animate it to make yourself a lot more tanky than you would normally be able to be. Usually this is only a magic tech, so it makes magic a lot more tanky than the other styles, but now with the Relic, I can use this with range to make myself a lot more bulky than I would normally be, making this farming method a lot easier. And to my surprise, my first Dormant from Telos was the Dormant SGB, and because I had been streaking until I died, I lost some orbs, so I had to go back and actually do some 999s to get my couple other orbs. And this was pretty chill. 999 to 500 isn't really a huge difference. And if you're someone who dies a bit like me, maybe doing 999 claims is better than actually streaking. I am not done with Telos yet because I want to get the 2k title with the SGB. But before we continue, I will be taking a detour at Raksha. Raksha is a big dinosaur boss that I've killed thousands of times in the main game, and it drops the best ranged ability, Greater Ricochet, which makes Ricochet a normally useless ability into the best basic in the game. And it also drops us the best in slot boots for now. It won't be the best in slot with the Elite Dracolich set effect, but these boots will be really good compared to whatever you're using now, like magic tank boots, so we will be actually getting some style bonuses. And Raksha is one of those bosses that is really difficult to learn because you need to use prayer flicks to actually deal with his mechanics and do some step backs, and because he does a tail swipe every now and then that you have to step back from, so you have to count to 4. And there's a couple of mechanics like clicking the orbs, but it's one of those bosses that once you get the feel for it, it's super easy to do, and I've done it quite a lot, so like doing Raksha even in scuffed gear is super easy to just no food. And I was even using ECB special attack now. Because I got the SGB from Telos, I can use the SGB special attack without the amulet from the weapon actually. And I can change my specialist amulet to ECB now. So I have all my 3 best in slot amulets now. And ECB is a damage boosting effect that turns your souls with healing into damage. But this will also reduce your healing done, because you won't be getting the souls with healing that you normally do. So it's a high risk, high reward strategy that I will be using constantly in this league. After the Raksha grind, it's time to go back to Telos, and I want the 2k title. My gear setup is now vastly better than it was before. I have 3 pieces of ranged DPS gear and 2 pieces of magic defense armor for a slight defense bonus from animated. It's not that great with this level, or with 2 armor pieces only, but it's still something. It's better than nothing, and since I don't have the DPS gear, it's better than using ranged tank armor, say. So what makes 2000% Telos so much more difficult than, say, 500% Telos? First of all, Telos' auto attacks scale with his enrage, so he does more damage per the enrage that he is in. So at 2k, if we miss a single flick, we're most likely dead. And he will hit like 3.5k through prayer as well. So this will be an extremely difficult fight where soul flicking will be constantly active. Some of those mechanics also get harder with enrage. His tendril attack, where he stuns you and locks you until you do a certain amount of damage to him, will be scaled up to his enrage. And at 2k enrage we will have to do 22k damage, and if we don't do it instantly, he will start hitting us 2k per tech. And to deal with this mechanic, I decided to delay phase 1 phasing, so I could do the tendril mechanic in my Death's Witness to get an easy fix where I just debow in my Death's Witness at the correct time, and this will allow me to skip this mechanic or like not using stalling because I can't be bringing any more runes. Alright, runes. My inventory has 8 spots filled with runes, just so I can use Animate Dead and Disruption Shield. And because I'm way too lazy to grind a piece of burden, we only have 10 pieces of food for this fight. Since there's gonna be a lot of unavoidable damage, we need to be perfect with our mechanical execution. In phase 2, we get a mechanic from Telos where he starts doing a barrage with magic. And this can be easily avoided by using Devotion to make our magic prayers fully active. It won't be too bad even with Reflect or something, but some defensive is really good to be used here. And again, because of our supply issues, we want to delay phase 2 phasing until we get Hold Still, one of the scariest mechanics Telos can use, where he first stuns you and then he deals a ton of damage twice to you. And the first hit is a small hit, and then he does a big hit that usually cuts people off guard and kills them. But since we have access to Resonance ability, which heals us based on the damage done by the boss, we can use this fact by using Anticipate when we know Hold Still is coming, and then waiting for the small hit pop, and then resonancing the big hit for a full heal. Telos can also put a virus on you, which means that you will have to surge or blade dive to the beam that's in the current rune, and these beams are different based on what phase you're in. In phase 1, it's a green beam that gives you more adrenaline or Telos more attack speed if he stands on it. In phase 2, it gives damage reduction and damage dealing reduction, but if Telos stands in it, it powers his magic barrage attack, so you would rather block it, but ideally neither of you will be standing in it. And in phase 3, there's a damage boosting beam that if you stand in it, it will smite you. First smite your prayers, then do damage. If you can't kill Telos fast enough in this beam, he will actually just one-shot you. Like, you can reflect it, but it's super over. There's also strats where you can lure Telos into the beam for a second to avoid this smite, but we will have enough damage to actually just skip this fight. So Telos won't be an issue in phase 3, we just do damage and he won't be doing anything. Because the start of phase 3, he always has 7 auto attacks before he actually starts doing mechanics. Phase 1 to 3 are pretty easy, but phase 4 is where the real fight begins. There are 3 different fonts in the room that you have to charge, and every time you phase Telos down to the next phase HP, you will have to charge a font, and this font will constantly do damage to you while you're charging it. And when the font starting begins, there's 3 minions that spawn with various effects. They can smite your prayer, do damage to you, and stun you, which are really annoying. The way we deal with this mechanic is stunning the minions outside of the font, so we can use defensive inside of the font while taking reduced damage and trying to soul split off of them. And of course in the first font I failed this. Even if you can stun all of them, just make sure you stun the red golem, because that will stun you and that can easily wipe you if you get stunned at the wrong time. Before the second font, you can lure the minions to this crevice and stun all of them there to make them easier to deal with, and then you can just charge the font while keeping them stunned. Normally we would use sticky bombs to deal with this, but unfortunately I don't have access to those yet, so we will be just using normal stunning abilities. And because we have permanent disrespect from the range Relic, this is actually a decent strat because we have a lot of stuns and snares. The lack of range stuns is a big thing, but we can use snares as well, and those we at least have. We rinse and repeat the same strategy for font 3 and we're off to phase 5. Phase 5 is where our Eldritch crossbow will shine. Because we don't really have time to pop down a Death Witness in this phase, we will be using ECB instead. We want to immediately reflect as the phase starts because the range is so squishy, and then we want to use our barricade to start blocking damage after we set up a natty. Here we abuse the range relic once again. Because this is such a massive damage race, we don't have time to clear all the minions, but we can still use the relic for advantage because of how Searing Godbow special attack works. Searing Godbow fires 5 arrows into its target, and based on its size, these arrows will land. And if it's a big target like Telos phase 5, all of the arrows will always land. But if we have extra targets from the minions, you say, we can get more of these arrows to go on top of Telos, dealing absolutely massive damage to start out the phase. Because the arrows that are launched are multiplied for a target amount. That's why we're targeting the minion on the side, so we can hit all of the minions and Telos at the same time for a maximum amount of arrows. And because my barricade is so short, I broke an Immort to keep myself safe for quite a bit longer. This gives me ample time to remove the virus at a correct pick, and I can go back to the green beam and deal with Telos once and for all, claiming us 2k Telos title and becoming a silver warden. Because range is such an awkward style to use at Telos, I feel like this is a huge achievement and proves that the range relic is actually way better than people think. But we aren't done in the range journey yet. We still need a lot of crit chance because we have a Gricko now, but it's not really Grickoing because we never crit. Our crit chance is like at 17% right now. And our Gricko is still only hitting 4 hits instead of 7 because we don't have access to Corrobing. And we can get access to Corrobing by getting Splitskay favor from God Wars 2, so I will be AFKing God Wars 2 on my downtime. And you know what? If you made it this far, my dad sent me a really mean message about my subscriber count, so to stop him from sending me mean messages, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, see ya!